Hi, everybody. This is Lisa Haven, and today I've got some rather intriguing information that I came upon. But it is proof the elite are using brain waves. Did you hear that? Brain waves to control and monitor your thoughts. And I stumbled across this patent, and I'm going to share it to you in just a moment, but it goes over some in-depth information about brain waves and just crazy, out of this world technology of the future that the elite very well can use to monitor and control not only our thoughts, but our emotions and how we feel. But I want to start today's YouTube video off with a quote from the Bible. 1 Peter 4:7. But the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore of sound mind and be sober unto prayer. Now, the reason I want to open up with this particular scripture, I want you to note the words, but the end of all things is at hand. That means that this particular verse is talking about the latter days, the end times. Why would God be warning us during the last days to be of sound mind? Could it be because there is technology coming in the future that could possibly make you feel happy, or instead of feeling depressed, it makes you feel excited? And could it be that in the future that we allow these certain brainwave, technological advances to control our emotions rather than letting our emotions be what they need to be, kind of like psychotropic drugs? Is there something in the future that makes that, an option for people? Maybe, just maybe, this is a warning from the Lord that we need to be of sound mind. That means not impacted, by things that affect our feelings, because sometimes we feel things for a certain way. Now, obviously, there are certain occasions, I don't want to get into that debate, but be of sound mind in these later days. Now, what I'm about to show you on this patent goes hand in hand with that verse, because the very technology that is in this patent can change emotions, or eventually that's a goal. But let's get into the patent. Now, here is the link if you want to check it out. I will also leave this link available at the end of my post. Here's the publication number, the type, the application number. It was published, as you see, in 2000, and it was filed in 1998. And so it's been a couple of years that it's been out, because now we're in 2014. However, I can only imagine that the advancements that this has made since then, just something to think about. It lists the inventor and all this information in case you want to look at that. But let's just get into the nitty-gritty of this thing. Okay, here's what the patent's title is: Communication System and Method Including Brain Wave Analysis and or Use of Brain Activity. Now, here's the abstract, the overall of what it is about. A system and method for enabling human beings to communicate by way of their monitored brain activity. The brain activity of an individual is monitored and transmitted to a remote location. At the remote location, the monitored brain activity is compared with pre-recorded normalized brain activity, curves, waveforms, or patterns to determine if a match or substantial match is found. If such a match is found, then the computer at the remote location determines that the individual was attempting to communicate the word, phrase, or thought corresponding to the match stored normalized signal. So basically what that is saying is this is a system by which brain activity of a human being is transported to a remote location. Now, obviously there are good intentions and good reasons to have this, but as with most things, it can highly be abused, it can be misused, and it can be commercialized, especially by the elite. Who wouldn't want to get their hands on something like this, especially someone with a lot of money and a lot of power. But this is big, big news for the elite. But we haven't really gotten to anything. This is just the overall of it. But let's just continue on into the description, and you're going to, you know, be shocked by where okay, we're going to start here. In particular, this invention relates to such a system and method where brain activity of a particular individual is monitored and transmitted in a wireless manner. In other words, this is their goal, is to get this, transmitted without wires, without any kind of form of that. Okay, so from the location of the individual or the person to a remote location, so that the brain activity can be computer analyzed at the remote location, thereby enabling the computer and or individuals at the remote location to determine what the monitored individual was thinking or wishing to communicate. In other words, they're going to have one person standing over here, and they're going to have a computer or some kind of system over here where it's reading the brain activities of what you're thinking. Okay, it knows your thoughts. That's like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. It's kind of this telepathic thing. They're trying to do what they can, and this is sort of telepathic in a technologically advanced sort of way. And the only way that I can describe this is they're really trying to, be all-knowing. It's a counterfeit to what God has to offer. God is all-knowing. He knows our thoughts and intentions. But here we are trying to create technological advances that can tell us what people are thinking. So here's just a quick summary of how the invention works. And I kind of explained this earlier, but I'll try to brief this. But first they need a human being, then they need a first location. So a human being and a location somewhere. Then they need a computer at another location that is remote from the first location. So you got two locations and a human. Then you also need a satellite. You need at least one sensor, preferably a plurality, meaning 10 or hundreds or thousands, with each sensor monitoring the firing of one or more brain nodes on the person. So basically those are going to be attached to the person. Those sensors will basically then detect what you're thinking, your emotions, and it will transfer that information to the satellite. The satellite will then send the signal or the brain activity to the second location. And when that second location receiver gets that signal from the satellite, it sends the information on to the computer, and the computer receives the brain activity information and basically analyzes it and determines whether he was attempting to communicate with words, phrases, thoughts, and it's all based upon the comparing of the received brain activity. So hopefully you kind of get the idea of the breakdown of how that works. Now, here are the goals or objectives that they're trying to accomplish with this patent. Goal 1, or objective 1 of this invention, is to enable brain activity of the first human being to be monitored. And it goes into the remote location thing first, but basically they want to be able to determine what the human being was thinking or intending to communicate. And they want to find this out by monitoring brain activities. Here is another objective of this invention, and it's basically to communicate monitored brain activity from one location to another in a wireless manner. So right now for this, they have to use wires, but in the future, they want to get rid of the wires, and they want to use possibly IR, which is infrared, or RF, which is radio frequency or satellite, to make this a wireless system. Now, this particular objective is critical from a biblical standpoint, and I'm going to show you why in just a second. But if you think about it, what it's basically saying is they can set up some kind of computer somewhere on the earth, And it can basically read the minds of people wirelessly, knowing what they think or knowing how they feel. Now, this reminds me, and I'm going to take a tangent and then we're going to come back on this third objective, but this reminds me, could this possibly be linked to the image that is worshipped in the book of Revelations? The Antichrist and false prophet create an idol, so to speak, that is forced to have people worship it. But let me show you that in Revelations 13, verses 15 to 18, and I'm going to read it. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. So everyone who refuses to worship this image is struck dead. Now, how would they be able to accomplish this feat, technologically speaking? You could have some kind of image made in the form of a beast, per the book of Revelations, with this computer inside of it that is capable and able of reading the minds of people. And if they're able to read your mind or know what you're thinking and that you're really not worshiping the beast, then the elite or the Antichrist and the false prophet would know that you're not on their side, so to speak, and you could be killed. But now that's just a hypothetical scenario. I'm not saying that's going to happen because it can go a number of ways. But I'm just saying maybe this technology is linked to the image of the beast somehow. Maybe, I don't know. Well, only time will tell. Like I said, I like to throw everything at you and you kind of, get the picture of what's going on. All right, so back to the patent, and here is another objective of this technology. It is another objective of this invention to provide a system capable of identifying particular nodes in an individual's brain, the fringes of which affect characteristics such as appetite, hunger, thirst, communication skills. Nodes in general are utilized to communicate certain words such as yes and no, or even phrases, I don't know, I'm not sure, or numbers 1 to 10, 100, and the like. Thought processes, depression, and the like. When such nodes are identified, they may be specifically monitored by one or more sensors to analyze behavior or communication or words, phrases, or thoughts. In other embodiments, devices mounted to the person, and get this, underneath the scalp, may be energized in a predetermined manner or sequence to remotely cause particular identified brain nodes to be fired in order to cause, get that, cause a predetermined feeling or reaction in the individual, such as a lack of hunger, lack of depression, lack of thirst, lack of aggression, lack of Alzheimer's disease effects, or the like. I don't know about you, but to me, this sounds like an utter nightmare. I mean, literally a nightmare. I mean, they have the ability to control and know what you're thinking. And for the elite out there to have that information, this isn't a, I mean, check this out. Analyzing behavior, and it's linked with depression. And get this, these little sensors, these little brain nodes are fired in order to what? Cause a predetermined feeling or reaction. Cause, which makes you feel a certain way, makes you react a certain way. And what do they list as examples? Makes you have a lack of hunger, lack of depression, lack of thirst, lack of aggression, lack of Alzheimer's. There's a little bit of good in with a lot of bad. And this is just a freaky thing to think about. Now, here's one other thing I want to point out is that the devices can be mounted to the person, and they say underneath the scalp. Does that mean like in, underneath the skin, or, I don't hesitate to think that it is possible that they can put some kind of implant underneath your forehead or your hand, if you will, or your hand and forehead. Where does that ring a bell? Oh, I get it, the mark of the beast. Could it be linked? I don't know. Could this technology be linked through an RFID chip? Could these two go together? Maybe this is why people do not um, or choose not to get rid of the mark of the beast when they have it because they've got happy drugs going in through something like this. And I want to finish reading that scripture in Revelation. So after, the image of the beast causes, all to die who don't worship it, then you read this. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand and on their foreheads, that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. All right, so there you go. There's another thing, is the mark of the beast, who all are caused to receive on their right hand or on their forehead. Could this technology be linked to it? Again, I don't know. I mean, there is it's a possible that the mark of the beast is an implantable chip. It's also possible that there's another theory out there that it's the mark of Allah. It's also possible that this implantable chip can change your DNA. There's a couple different ways that it can go in the latter days, but I just want to share with you the information on this right now. But wait, it gets creepier. Let's just keep going on this thing for a moment. Brain node fringes are the basis of thought and mind processes of individuals. Certain embodiments of this invention enable such brain fringes and behavior to be captured by an external device. So something can read your brain and keep that information. It is an object of this invention to utilize a normalization of normalizing curve or waveform or pattern based upon monitored brain activity to detect or determine thought process by the monitored individual. In such a manner, individuals can transmit by satellite what they are thinking or intending to think via their monitored brain activity without the need to talk or write down the information. Telepathic kind of stuff, if you will. Okay, then it goes on. Each individual has a distinct pattern of brain node fringes or brain activity. Each person is believed to be different in this regard, and this is creepy. Thus, a separate brain activity file may be stored in a memory for each individual. So they can store information on every one of us on our brain activity. If the NSA spying on Facebook, through your cars, through your, through your electronical devices, through your washing machine, if it isn't enough that NASA's already or the NSA, sorry, not NASA, bleep there, but if the NSA is already spying on everything you do, why do they need to go as far as to know what we're thinking? If you think it's bad now, it's about to get a heck of a lot worse. Here's another objective. They want to be able to tell if you're lying. So they want to use it as a lie detection mechanism. And here is another objective. It is another objective of this invention to formulate or build up a file for each individual based upon patterns recorded in response to that individual, answering or responding to numerous predetermined questions with known intended responses. So in other words, they want to keep a file on you to know when you're lying, to know when you're telling the truth, to know pretty much everything about you, to know your next move, to know what you're going to think in the future. And again, here it just reiterates how they do it. We went over this earlier, but a sensor can be on the scalp or skin. And obviously they want to take that wireless at some point. But again, kind of just reminds me of like the mark of the beast. Now, if you thought all that was bad, it gets even worse. And this is the most concerning part. This invention further fulfills the above described needs in the art by providing a method of affecting a mental or physiological state of an individual. The method comprising the steps of. Now this right here, so far, it's talking about controlling or affecting your mood or your mental state. This is absolute control of an individual, if you will. And here's basically how it works. It's provided at least one firing device capable of being energized on an individual, and energizing the fringe device to cause the firing device to cause a particular or group of brain nodes to be fired in the individual in order to affect the mental or physical state of the individual. In certain embodiments, the method, including the step of providing at least one fringe device on or under the scalp of the individual in proximity of the brain of the individual. So now, if this in just a nutshell so far is just saying they're firing certain things at your brain nodes, and it's telling, or certain energies or certain frequencies or certain radio waves at your brain waves, making you think in a mental or physiological state. They can control what you're feeling. And here's where they say it. In certain embodiments, the method, including the step of identifying at least one brain node related to the mental or physiological state intended to be affected, targeting the identified brain node. So they're going to target a certain brain node depending on what they want targeted, and they're going to energize and fire the device or devices to cause that node to be fired in order to affect your physiological state. So say they want to fire at a certain node, they can fire at that one and make you less hungry, less thirsty, less anxious, or less depressed. Do you get that? They're controlling you with brainwaves. You know, the world that we're living in is just crazy. And I really recommend you read this in its entirety. And I'm not going through all of it, but here's just an example of what they're talking about. They want to use this to basically eliminate the need for drugs such as Prozac, which is a psychotropic drug. And basically, if you're feeling depressed, let's just zap your brain with a happy brain wave and make you happy. If you're feeling sad, let's pump that happiness to you. Or instead of using psychotropic drugs, let's change the way you think and make you think another way. Is that kind of, that's just out there. I don't know about you, but this is a little much. But some of the information in here, you will be stunned and shocked, and I don't want to keep you too long, but it gives examples of what this technology can do. And here's just another quick example before I let you go. This system can be used to identify the brain node in particular individual are typically fired, causing the individual to not be hungry. If that individual has an eating disorder or a problem with obesity, then the firing devices can be remotely energized, thereby causing the identified brain nodes to be fired at predetermined or random times in order to cause the individual not to be hungry. Let's target this thing at your brain mode and make you not hungry when you are hungry, or make you lose weight and make you think something that you're not thinking. But here's the thing, while it has good size or whatever, if you can see good in it, you can see bad in it, but where's the line going to be drawn? If they want you to think a certain way in a certain activity, why not just shoot your brain? Okay. Or, somebody doesn't like you. Why not, shoot your brain this way? This is a very thin line, and we need to be careful with things like this. And we need to stay away from playing God in this manner. So with that, this is Lisa Haven signing off.